Hello, and welcome to my interpersonal communication project titled Lights, Camera, Communication. My name is Shakaria Buckson, and I am a master's candidate at Liberty University for Human Services Counseling with a concentration in life coaching. I'm 24 years old. I reside in Washington, D.C., and I work at the Department of State. So, let's get started. What is interpersonal communication? Interpersonal communication is communication that happens when an individual talks and listens in ways that maximizes the presence of the personal. Effective communication requires you to understand the emotion behind the information. So not only are we discussing regular conversation with people, but we're also searching for cues such as facial expressions, their nonverbal expressions such as crossing their arms, and how they're really and truly interacting with you during your conversation. So my overall arching goal is to develop and maintain healthy, healing, and open relationships by using direct communication, self-disclosure, and creating true positive perceptions of myself to my friends, family, and colleagues through certain tools to showcase my unique personality. Over the course, I have been told that I don't seem like a true person because I don't express myself that well, and I really want to show that I have flaws too, and that I want to express how I am to others by using the tools that I have discovered in this class. So we're going to talk about enlarging the conversation. Peterson, who wrote the book, Why Don't We Listen Better, compares the listener to the midwife who enlarges the conversation through asking open and clarifying statements. The midwife ensures that the speaker understands to take ownership of the baby, and the baby is your actual problem and your situation, and you're going to work through that by using tools such as asking questions and making clarifying statements to make sure you're understanding what is taking place with the interaction between you and someone else. And Stewart states that there is a direct correlation between the quality of communication and your quality of life. So here we have our behavioral blends, and our personality should never become an excuse for poor behaviors, Carbonell stated. Behavioral blends discusses that everyone has a predictable pattern of behavior because of your specific personality. There are 4 basic personality types, Carbonell discovered, and which stands for D is active and task-oriented, I is active, people-oriented, S is passive, people-oriented, and C is passive, task-oriented. So now we're going to go over background and influences. And through the background and influences, I was able to actually discover and find some quotes that I enjoyed from 2 peer-reviewed articles, which was School and Vertino. So School states that someone cannot be understood apart from their environment, cultural, social, and contextual clues, and that these are seeds that are planted within us and they grow until death. Vertino states that what we say, how we say it, and what we mean are very important. So Stewart talks about how your self-identity can be co-constructed by what other people say. And so an example that I'm going to use is that I was told that I talk too much as a child. I am an African American and I'm a female, and those are my ascribed identities that people have given me. And my avowed identities are that I'm beautiful inside and out, I'm a Christian, and I am created in God's image. And once I was able to remove those ascribed identities and moved into the avowed identities, it really made my communication better because I was able to see whose I am, and that led me to be able to be a better person to others because I was better by communicating to God more openly. So with my behavioral blend, this is expected of me is I am currently an I, which is inspirational influencer, which is active, people-oriented, inspiring, influencing, the center of attention. I bring out the best in others, and I'm a leader. Also, this is me, which is CIS, competent influencing specialist, which is I struggle with the acceptance and approval of others, sense of humor, task-oriented, follow directions, passive, and interpret others' feelings well. And this has led to my own personal communication style, which is, for positive, I'm intuitive, understanding, outspoken, concise, and descriptive. Negative, I'm passive-aggressive, too compromising, totalizing, opinionated, tone of voice, and non-confrontational. And some of the communication barriers and traps that I'll go over is totalizing. And totalizing is when you give an attribute to someone specifically with a trait that they have, such as African American, or that they're Caucasian, or that they're a woman, or that they're a man. And an example that I'll use is Serena Williams, and that a lot of people say that she is the best African American female tennis player, when she actually is one of the greatest tennis players of all time. We also have ritual listening, where you're listening to actually respond and you're not actually listening to hear what the person is saying. We have self-sabotage, which is when you don't have a positive perception of yourself. It's hard for you to truly communicate how you feel and what you need to others. Also, we have self-disclosure, which is opening up to other people and disclosing your needs and your wants, which creates an open relationship back from that other person. And we also have the perception, which is changing your perception from the win-lose to the win-win, which John Stewart talks about in his book as well, which is it's okay to state that I understand what you're saying, but I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying. And that both parties can walk away from the argument satisfied, and that it does not have to be a win-lose conversation. So solutions to overcome those barriers are using the Talk Listener card by Peterson, which is where a talker has a card and a listener has a card, and you both have tasks that you are following on those cards. We also I'm going to work on stopping the communication traps for ritual listening, as well as asking why. Peterson talks that asking why can be manipulative, and I'm going to work on that because sometimes I am using a manipulative way, and sometimes I'm also just curious. We also have the flat brain theory and syndrome, which is where you have an overload of emotions that carry you forth, and you aren't able to use your current senses. So you aren't able to come to yourself, that you're pretty much out of it as far as you don't know what's going on, you don't know what you're relating to, and that's definitely an unhealthy way to be. And sometimes I'm like that when I'm extremely angry. And also we have noise pollution, which is it diminishes your ability to listen on a level 1, which is basically the lowest level of listening, and the internal distractions are such as your thoughts and the process that are going on in your mind while the person is speaking. And 2 is the external, which is multitasking while someone is speaking, as well as any outside noises that you may hear that can be a distraction from listening. And the strategies that I'm going to use is asking questions, expressing my true thoughts, and knowing that my opinion matters, and changing the negative statements to positive ones, and trusting and being flexible. And within my plan of action, I have 6 steps, and these are not in any particular order, but 1 is to create a positive self-image. 2, every opportunity to communicate is an opportunity to practice and change. 3, listen to understand and not to give my opinion. 4, release past emotions and feelings. 5, express my emotions, whether good and bad. And 6, embrace confrontation. And I also have scriptures that I was able to find on communication. I'm just going to highlight one, which is Proverbs 18:20 through 21, which states, "From the fruit of a man's mouth his stomach is satisfied. He is satisfied by the yield of his lips. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits." And that pretty much brings me to the conclusion, which I was able to find 2 quotes that I thoroughly enjoyed, which was, "To effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in a way we perceive the world, and use understanding as a guide to our communication with others." This was by Tony Robinson. And the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said, by Teeter Drucker, which is a very true statement. I have enjoyed my time in this class, and I really appreciate what we've learned, Dr. Starner. And thank you, everyone, for listening to my presentation of Studies in Interpersonal Communication.